Hi guys, Merchant here again. Previously on one of my videos we set up our Craftbukkit server. We had our start file in here and it put in a whole bunch of new stuff. And I would like to go over what some of this stuff is for you guys, just so you have at least a vague understanding of the structure of the server here. First we have our plugins folder, which at this time is empty. We will be adding plugins into that folder to enhance our game here shortly in probably the next video. So over here we have some data for one of our worlds. This is stuff that you probably do not want to mess with. It's kind of empty right now. There's one file for my one character that came on, but that stuff you're probably not going to mess with very much at all. It's for advanced users only. So you have the netherworld here. That's the hell-like world that's part of Minecraft. It's you can only access through a portal, and then also your end world, which again is through a portal and includes your dragon and all that stuff. So coming down here, banned IPs, pretty straightforward. In here you would just put in an IP number and it will ban that person, and then they won't be able to get on your server ever. Banning IPs is it's good to have an IP ban in case you have somebody who's using multiple accounts and they're coming from the same computer, but you've banned one name that they are under, and then they've got another name and another name. But normally you just ban people by putting their name in here in the ban, and then I put agent chaos, and he would be banned. Okay, pretty straightforward. Okay, the Bukkit YML. Here we get into some more involved stuff. Okay, in here you have some settings, including allow end. You can turn that off and then erase your end folder here. And then when you start it up again, it would not create an end world. If you don't want an end world and want to save space, or you're just not interested in having that in your server because it doesn't fit with the theme you're doing for your server, there you go. Warn on overload is just going to put a warning in the server console chat. Basically, when you start the server up, there's going to be a little console area, and it's going to show you some things that are going on with the server. And if the server is overloaded and it's not running well, it's going to tell you that. You probably want to just keep this on unless that stuff bothers you. But you really should try to get your server to run without overloading, and then you won't see it tell you that it's overloading. This is a warning. Just turning it off doesn't stop your server from overloading, so keep that in mind. Permissions file. Right now we have the permissions YML. You don't really need to mess with this. We're going to add a permissions plugin at some point here during my tutorials, and I'll discuss how to do permissions because they're pretty important to running a multiplayer server if you want things to run smoothly and not have people doing stuff you don't want them to do. Update folder, got an update folder. It's going to update yeah, don't worry about that right now, not that important. Ping packet limit, again, probably don't want to mess with these numbers unless you know exactly what you're doing. I don't mess with it myself. Exact login location, set to false by default. Again, these are probably just best at the default settings. And if you want to change the message when you're shutting down the server, you can do that here. I can tell you right here, connection throttle, I've messed with this before and it caused me some serious problems, so you may want to stay away from that. If you want, I've never really understood these spawn limits completely. Also, when you start using other plugins, they may take over the spawn rates. I think I use multiverse, and I think it takes over the spawn rates. But if you crank these up real high, I mean, I've seen it cause a lot of animals to show up and then cause a lot of lag. Again, these numbers are pretty good for a decent sized server. You may think that you're going to have a huge, massive server, but that's unlikely unless you're going to spend a lot of money and get a bunch of other people involved to help you out. I do the best I can on my own, and I get a little frustrated when I get to about 20 players. It starts getting a little overwhelming. This chunk period and ticks. Again, I'm not exactly sure how this works. I know what a chunk is. That's an area of land inside the game. It's about 16 blocks by 16 blocks square, and the game sort of generates those areas of land as you move out in the game. And in fact, that's good to know if you're starting up a server and you don't want it to get massively huge with the amount of area that people wander out into. You're going to want to put some kind of border plug-in into your server pretty quickly. So ticks per on animals. I believe this is an animal can spawn every 400 ticks. A monster can spawn every 1 tick, I think. And according to them, that's a good default for an average server, so we just leave it at that. Auto updater enabled, sure, why not? Unbroken, warn console, warn ops. Yeah, you probably want all that to stay on. Preferred channels. This has to do with I use a plugin called it's Craftbukkit update or something like that, and it uses this channel to find the most up-to-date version of Craftbukkit, and the RB stands for recommended build. If you want the development build, you put in dev, but we put it at RB because we're using the recommended build. And then apparently, according to this, when there's a new version, it'll give it to you in the update folder, I believe. So yeah, all that good stuff. Database. I believe this is if you're going to want to use SQLite database. Or actually, I think it does use the SQLite database, blah, blah, blah. Probably don't want to screw with this. If you really know what you're doing, maybe you can change the database up. I mess with the database for some plugins, but I don't use it on anything with the Bukkit YML settings. So, alright, let's get back into this. That's our jar. We don't need to mess with that. The help YML file. Let's take a look. By default, you do not need to modify this file. So there you go. Help topics for all plugin commands are automatically provided. That's exactly right. So you really don't need to do anything here. Just leave it in and make sure it's doing its job. Ops. If you want to opt somebody so that they have permission to do anything in the game and use any plugin commands or whatever, you can do that here. Only do it with the people you trust the most. Do not let just any old person who just comes in be an op, no matter what happens, no matter who they say they are. They could say they're from Mojang, they can say they're from Minecraft, they can say they're from Planet Minecraft. Do not listen to them, do not give them op. In fact, you may want to just ban the people who ask you for op in the first few seconds, because they're just troublemakers trying to see if you're dumb enough to give them access to your server so that they can destroy all kinds of stuff. Don't let them do it. Again, here's the permissions YML. You can add in permissions here, I believe, and use Bukkit's super permission stuff that they have. We're going to use a permissions plugin. We're probably going to use Essentials. Group Manager is part of Essentials. It's a real good one. I myself use permissions EX. It's also known as PEX. I use that because it can be used with a database to store all of the permissions. I have lots and lots of permissions, and I like having a database so I can go and search for the permission by name, or have them easily alphabetized and not have to look through the config files for the permissions plugin. So this is all stuff you should consider depending on how large your server is going to be. Server text document. I don't think that's important. That's going to show you server readouts of when your server crashes and stuff. It's going to print out stuff. Let's go with Notepad++. If you guys don't have Notepad++, please download that. It's a great thing to have. You do not want to be looking through a lot of these config files and stuff with a regular Notepad. It just doesn't format it right. It makes it a lot harder to read, and Notepad++ is going to really make things a lot easier for you. So in here, server properties. You got interesting stuff in here. Generator settings. That has to do with the LAN generation, I think. I've never put anything into that. That equal sign has always been empty on my server as far as I know. So in here, just like that allow end on that other, which I think was on the Bukkit YML, you can disallow the nether world if you don't want to have another world on your server. If you want to change the name of your world, you can put it in here. Okay, like, let's say we want to call it Earth. Keep in mind, if you do that right here, it will not change the name of the one you had before that was just called World. It will now make a new world called Earth. Okay? If you go and change the name of the world that's in the folder, let me show you in the folder. If I would have changed this to Earth, rename it Earth, and as long as I named it with a capital, just like I did on the other one, and it was all exactly the same, then it would not make a new Earth. It would use that one that we already had as Earth. Okay? And also keep in mind, and my W key is broken. There we go. Keep in mind that this is the default level. So whatever level you put in here for this name, it's going to make the nether and the earth, and the end world named after this. So if I started an Earth, it would make an Earth nether, and an Earth end. Okay? Enable query. You probably want this true, most likely. I suppose it could cause some lag, but you probably want this on if you're going to have a website that shows that your server is up and running, and it might be able to show who's online and whatnot. We'll leave it on false for the purposes of our tutorial test server. Allow flight. Again, you probably want to keep that false unless it starts interfering with certain plugins going to allow people to fly, and if you're going to let people fly and then it starts kicking them for flying, then you want to turn that to true if it becomes a problem. Otherwise, you want to just probably ban people who try to fly by using certain client hacks or whatnot. And if certain words I'm talking about, like client and this and that, aren't making sense to you, you will learn them. You will understand what I'm saying. And one moment while I take a sip of a drink because I'm feeling a little cotton mouth here. All right, moving on. We have the server port. This is the default port for Minecraft. You may want to change it for certain reasons, but if you do, usually that means that somebody, when they want to access your server, will have to put in the name of your server. Like they'd have to put like Minecraft. My old one was Freedonia. Donia.net, and then they'd have to do like that, like a semicolon, and then 25565. So that can cause some problems for people to access unless you put the default port, which is 25565, and then they'll just access through whatever your IP address is, or your domain name if you purchased one. And I will talk about domain names and all that kind of stuff in another video. Level type, probably want this on default. Enable recon. This is, again, you turn this on, and if you're going to have certain outside things that you use to help run your server. I used to have one of those that I used, but unfortunately someone got access to it, and then they messed up my server pretty bad because they got access to all of my plugins, and they made a mess of things using World Edit to put lava everywhere. So I fixed everything and saved everything, but it was annoying. So, and we will talk about ways of keeping people from destroying your server with grief and other stuff in another video. I will definitely go over stuff like that for you guys because it's important. Force game mode. Again, it's got default false. You probably want to leave it on that. That would be like, I assume that means, this is a new thing. I don't remember seeing that before. The force game mode. I assume maybe it would mean, like, if you put survival here, then it would force everyone to have survival mode. Or it may be a false truth thing, and then I'm not certain, so don't quote me on that. Server IP, I think you put the server IP here, and then that's the only way they can access your server. And they can't access with any other IP address, like a number address or anything, and it's like just the domain that you put in, I think. Again, I've put it in before in here, and then it caused some trouble, so I usually just leave it blank. When in doubt, leave things as the default settings, and everything should run pretty smoothly when it comes to the server settings and Bukkit settings and the basic settings. Like changing the height of the level could cause problems. If you want to spawn NPCs, if you don't want villagers to spawn, just set it to false. Whitelist, set that to true, and then only the people you add to your whitelist can get on the server. And the whitelist is another file in here that I don't think we've gotten to yet. No, it's at the end. Whitelist, you would just add names to that like you'd add to your ops list. You'd add one name, and then another name, and then another name. That's how it works, okay? You might be able to do, comma, but I don't think so, and I wouldn't risk it because that might not work. Although you'd probably know pretty quickly. Alright, so going back to where we were on here. Spawn animals, obviously, again, do you want animals to spawn or don't you? True or false? Snooper enabled, that allows Mojang to look at your server and see how it's running and stuff. I don't think it causes any real hassles if you say true. Hardcore mode, don't know exactly what it is. If you said it's true, I'm not sure what's up. Most hardcore modes that I know about that are like in plugins that call themselves hardcore mode and whatnot usually mean that when somebody dies in your server, they can never come on your server again, which doesn't seem like a great idea to me. I want people to come on my server. Alright, texture pack. You used to be able to put in like a connect to your texture pack or whatever that you'd put in like a Dropbox or something like that, and people it would automatically set the texture pack for the people in the server. But they recently changed to resource packs, and I don't think they've added those into the server stuff for Bukkit. Well, in fact, they wouldn't be in this because this is Bukkit 1.5.2 right here. So soon enough it's going to be resource pack, and then hopefully it'll send the resource pack right to the players. But for now, if you're using this slightly outdated version, it is outdated in the sense that Minecraft is one version ahead, you can put in your thing to connect to a texture pack. But texture packs are, you got to make sure you build it right and then you have it set up right. As I had trouble with texture packs. It took me a little while to figure it all out. So don't feel bad if it takes you a little while to figure that kind of stuff out. Online mode, I think you want to leave that at true. PvP, unless you don't want PvP on, leave it at true. Difficulty is 1. I believe that's easy difficulty. Or normal. I think it's easy, actually. But if you set that real high, it's going to get really hard, and many players do not like really hard servers. Some really love them. It's all what you want. You want a friendly server where people don't fight too much. Do you want a really hard server where people PvP a lot? It's up to you. Mine's kind of more of a friendly server where people kind of play, and because it's a Doctor Who server, and I don't want them fighting each other too much. So I leave the difficulty kind of low, and PvP's on, but I don't. We don't have too much of it going on. Game mode. This is again. Okay, with the force game mode up here, it must be just true or false. If you say true, then the game mode, if you set it to like 1, then everybody would be forced to be in creative mode no matter what. They couldn't change. Set it to 0, it's survivor, and you leave this at false as far as the force game mode, and then some of your players, if you give them the ability, can switch between game modes if you give them that permission to do so. Max players on your server. I'll tell you right now, you're probably not going to be able to hold more than 5 or 10 if you're using a home server, because your internet, unless you have really good internet speed or something, you're probably not going to be able to get it that high. And it also depends on how many plugins you're planning to use. Spawn monsters, true. Generate structures, true. Again, this is just, you want monsters there? Do you want villages to show up? View distance. Probably don't want to mess with this. I messed with this one time and it caused my server to lag out and crash. Spawn protection. This should be the number of blocks around spawn that are protected, in this case 16. Messages of the day. You can change your message of the day message to say, welcome, or hello, or you suck. I don't know. Whatever. So that's it for that. Nope, don't want to save it. That was server properties. There's your start file, and there's your whitelist, which, as I said, like all the other ones, just you put in a name, like hee-haw, all, whatever. And then they'll be whitelisted, and only the people on your whitelist will be allowed on the server if you set it to whitelist only in that other setting we saw before. So we're through all of this stuff. I hope that was helpful for you guys. If I didn't go over something completely, just Google it online and you should be able to find it. There's plenty of people who have had the same problems you've had a million times before you, and there's probably an answer on some forum or from someone somewhere, okay? And please remember to subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes where I'm going to show you guys more about how to run a Minecraft server and keep it running smoothly and have really cool things in it, and keep your sanity while trying to run the thing. So I'll see you next time. Bye.